Welcome back to Jess Nourishes, nutrition for busy people like you. Hey, I wore my glasses, good one. Wore my glasses today in honor of my special guest, Kristen Yarker. Hey, hey.
Hi.
So Kristen is a child feeding expert and guru, and today we're going to kind of chat about how to establish healthy eating habits from an early age, because I'm sure, as you all know, the culture of dieting is rampant and everywhere, and we want to be able to set our kiddos up to battle that. And even if you don't have kids, maybe you're thinking about kids, maybe you have nieces, nephews, cousins with kids, I mean, the list goes on. So like, we want to start changing the language that kids hear about food and basically eradicate dieting from kids' vocabulary, essentially. So yeah, Kristen, take it away about your background and how you kind of came to be in this sort of milieu of child feeding.
Yeah, thanks. I really appreciate that you're tackling the diet culture like head on, and because really all of us contribute to our culture. Like, our culture is not something separate from us. It's all of us together acting together. And so each person who's taking action around that and identifying, like looking at our actions and our thoughts and being like, wait, asking like, is that the way it has to be? Is that necessarily true? And then making changes that collectively will change for sure our culture.
Preach.
There you go. So how did I get into this? I am known as a leading child feeding expert in the country, and I kind of like came to it unexpectedly, if I want to say that. I actually started out looking at us as women and our, what I call the psychosocial aspect of food. That's the fancy term, but I did my master's looking at
Psychosocial.
There you go. I looked at us as women, why we have the thoughts we have around our bodies, around food, around exercise. Like, the psychology of it is also the cultural pieces too.
Sounds complicated.
Yeah, exactly. And I saw that really those ideas are everywhere, that we're completely surrounded by that, and we're surrounded by that for our entire lives.
Oh, yeah.
And so what I decided to do was to go back and look at how do we help protect kids, like almost like an inoculation. How do we inoculate them from this crazy world we live in? How do we get them to have a core, like, healthy relationship with food and with their bodies and with themselves? Because we know that when we send them out into this world, they're going to be surrounded by crazy messages.
Diet culture
Everywhere, right? Like, I've been doing dietetics a long time. I did my master's a long time ago, and I always thought it was bad then, and it's only ramped up with, the social media world and everything now.
Yeah.
So I think even more important now than ever before is helping kids establish a healthy relationship with food. And I'm so glad that you mentioned nieces or nephews, because I really have seen in the last 20 years that negative images of our negative body image used to be a women's thing, and it still is rampant. Unfortunately, it's normal for women to feel negatively about our bodies and our culture. Just because it's common doesn't mean it should be that way.
Totally.
But I see more and more boys and men unhappy with their bodies too. Like, I always, back then in my feminist days, I was like, we want it to be equal. And it's like, now it's becoming equalized, but in the wrong direction. So
Yeah.
kind of have to be careful what you ask. But I'm so glad that you mentioned boys too, because they pick up on these messages as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Anywhere where you're, say, standing in the lineup of a movie theater and you have maybe a kid around you, and
You're
then
at the new
someone's
Avengers movie or whatever.
Right? That was a great movie, by the way. Anyway, so you say someone's talking about like, oh, I had a salad for lunch, so I'm allowed some candy, and I saved room so I could have like an entire bag of popcorn. It's gonna make me feel so sick, but like, here we go.
Or I shouldn't have this.
Or shouldn't have this. Yeah. On Monday, I'll start eating clean and be better. It's like, okay, first of all, the kid is hearing everything. Like, kids, they're sponges, and like, so let's figure out how to, like Kristen said, how to shield them, like, deflected all this diet nonsense in our society that is shooting for some weird thin ideal for some reason. And even though we have countless studies back up the fact that health is not related to one shape and size, and neither is someone's happiness. Whatever, like kids hear things in passing, so we want to make sure that no matter who we are, mothers or not, we want to make sure that we establish a super healthy language when it comes to talking about food. In order to do that, we want to make sure that we set the kids up with the tools to, even if they do hear it, to deflect it and go on their merry way and keep eating intuitively, or how they have been basically born with the skills to eat intuitively. So, Kristen, how would you start to coach families about how to feed their kid in order to set these amazing core relationships up with food that help carry them through this nutty society that we live in?
It's so true that it starts right from the beginning, even from the very first introduction of solid foods for babies, like 4-6 months. Like that's a great time to be starting, because babies are born with an innate feeling of hunger and feeling satisfied. And it's only through our acculturation, our teaching to ignore those, that we learn to not listen to our bodies. And so babies are born with that. We want to continue to foster that being present. And so that starts from the very first, like introducing solid foods. I always like to teach that it is not our job to decide how much baby food gets into your baby. Your baby's job is to decide how much. Our job is to provide the opportunity for them to do it. So it starts right from get-go.
Awesome. So this is basically what we call in the dietetics world is the Ellen Satter method, and it is super amazing, and check it out if you need any help with guiding your baby through infant feeding. I definitely use this method as I started introducing foods to my baby boy, and yeah, it's I really do believe in it. So what are other things you can do besides letting them kind of go along with their hunger and fullness cues? Like what else do parents maybe want to avoid trying to do, or what should they try to do in order to help steer them into this sort of intuitive eating zone that we ideally want to be in as adults?
Yeah, definitely. The first thing to establish is a positive association with food. And so what that involves is to create family meal times. Like actually sit down and eat with the child. Often we talk about feeding kids like it's some action that you do, but really what you want to do is eat together with your child. And that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be some like June Cleaver, like 1950s perfection that you stayed home.
Honey, the roast is ready.
Right? Like not what we're aiming for. What we're looking for is at least one trusted adult. So that might be a parent, it might be, as you said, an auntie or an uncle, it might be your nanny. It might be the daycare provider, sitting and eating with your child. Well, and it seems more efficient often to be like you're putting the food in front of the kids and then you're cleaning up the kitchen and you're loading the dishwasher and you're doing other things, but that actually ends up being less efficient because kids don't eat as well when an adult isn't there. So if you just stopped the multitasking and sat down with your child, the studies show that when a trusted adult joins them at the table, kids eat better. Awesome. And so that's a really important thing because there's a part of us human beings where food is a naturally social time. And so having the kid by themselves, things don't go as well. And so having that loving relationship is important. And that's why it's also really important of what you talk about at that time. This is not the time to be scolding kids, to be bringing up negative stuff. It's a time to have pleasant conversation. Okay. And you can start that right from like, you know, the 6-month-old, the 12-month-old. No, they're not going to answer how was your day, right?
Oh, it was okay. I pooped myself, and then I had some boobie, and then I played with my trucks.
Yeah, exactly.
How was your day, Mom?
Right. That conversation isn't going to go on, but you can have like kind of a sing-songy like conversation where you're like, this is what happened in my day, and these were the awesome things, and when we go to the grocery store later, here's what we're going to get. And you can start, I mean, they pick up on the vibe, right? They pick up on your emotions, and so you want to be bringing that positive attitude. And then when they are older, when they're, 2, 3, 4, 10, 15, whatever, you can be having that pleasant conversation. And that's a great, really having that draw to want to be there at the table with loved ones is the number one thing to establish a healthy relationship with kids, with food.
Such great advice. But if we do get into, obviously we're adults, we are surrounded by diet culture, and now we have all these like values and labels placed on food. So how do we kind of like navigate through that? And that's kind of where my practice comes in, is I'm like, okay, so we have some issues making peace with food. Like, what can we do about it? Well, I mean, my first tip, I don't know about you, is if I know that I'm leaving my house and I'm not going to go back for at least 3 to 4 hours, I know that I'm going to get hungry on the road. So, I mean, my rule for me is never leave the house hungry. Or if I know I'm going to leave the house and be out for a while, I'll either take some food with me or kind of like suss out a healthy place to eat near where I'm going. So a lot of people travel, and that's kind of unavoidable, and you can't exactly like take your crock pot with you on the plane and be like, don't worry, I got this handled. I always talk about my crock pot every single day. I don't know why. But anyways, so like, you can't obviously bring all your own food with you. You can bring some snacks, for example. But once you're there, you like suss out a place that you know you're gonna feel like you can have a satisfying, healthy meal. It doesn't have to be this beautiful, perfect eating food pattern. We don't want to be there's no such thing as perfect eating. Even dietitians, we eat dessert. Like there's no clean this. I mean,
that is perfect.
It is. It's following your gut. Like, eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full. If you don't know how to stop when you're full, just wait after your first plate for 20 minutes. Takes that about that time for your gut to be like, hey, either I'm still hungry, please feed me more, or no, you know what, I'm good, thanks, tapping out.
It's amazing that when we're eating that you have to give the recommendation of have a glass of water in order to get to the 20 minutes. I mean, really, if you're having like a meal or more substantial snack, it should probably take you 20 minutes to actually eat that.
Chew your food.
So like people wolf their food down so fast, and that just leads to worse digestion. And also, like, it seems ridiculous. I did 8 years of post-secondary education. So I went to university for 8 years to tell people to chew your food. Like, it seems ridiculous, but yet this advice we need to give in our modern day. We just, even as much as we have this diet culture and there's like put on the pedestal of like Top Chef and like Instagram feeds with beautiful food and all of this, we still, it's like a weird thing to actually stop and eat. Like, you know, there's offices with staff kitchens that are empty because everybody's eating at their desk. And yet that's a really key part.
That is. That's tip number 3. Slow down while you're eating and put the distractions away. Turn off your phone, turn off the computer. If you're driving in traffic and you're stuck and you're starving, hey, like, pop some trail mix. That's totally awesome. But like, savor it. Like Kristen said, chew it. Like,
please chew.
Enjoy it. And even if it's a meal that you made and you're like starving, for example, try to slow down as best as you can. Savor that meal that you just made. Like, you put work into that meal. Like, enjoy it.
And that leads back to the thing with kids too, right? And if maybe you've never stopped and had meals, that hasn't really been a part of your thing, but now you have little ones that you're introducing solid foods, or that you have toddlers, preschoolers, school-age kids, like maybe this is the impetus, this is the opportunity to make that change for yourself. Because kids can't multitask as well. And we don't want them tuning out, staring at an iPad because you can shove more food in. Like, that is not going to help establish a healthy relationship with food. So another step that I teach with parents around creating a healthy habit is to let kids choose how much is eaten at a meal. And I know that's a really tough one to do, to trust kids to do a good job of their eating. But what the research shows is, even when it's done with the best of intentions, interfering with how much food a kid eats, either by saying, okay, you need to eat 2 more bites, 2 more bites, 2 more bites, or by saying you can't have any more rice, it's too much. Either way, even when it comes with the best of intentions, those types of interactions tend to have a more negative outcome, higher risk of eating disorders when kids aren't allowed to eat to when their tummy says they're satisfied. And so that we often say, you know, don't bribe your kids, don't force feed them. And parents are like, I never do that. But you know what? When you say you can't have any more rice until you have 2 more bites of broccoli, that is bribing, that is forcing. And it comes with the best of intentions. By no means am I saying that these parents have bad intentions.
No, of course not.
Because you
really
really
want to put as much food in our growing babies as possible.
Right? You're worried that they're not getting enough.
Plus they sleep better when they're full.
But what we really see is that kids, particularly once they're like toddlers, preschoolers, preschool or school age kids, the amount of food they eat varies widely. Like they'll have days when they are like
Bottomless
like,
pits.
yeah, like 3 bowls of cereal, and you're like, holy crap, kid, like where's that all going? You know, and then they're gonna have other days where you're like, I swear my child is a plant, because they're getting their energy must be from photosynthesis, because they sure aren't eating anything. But that is normal, and it's really hard to trust it as a parent, but that really is the way kids eat, and that's how you help them maintain their connection with their body and knowing if they're satisfied and what they're full.
Yeah.
But if we have not lost that ourselves as adults, right, then that's how it's hard to trust that my kid can do it if I can't even do it. It's a great time to be doing some more mindful eating yourself so that you can feel confident in it and know that your child has it too.
And set that example of healthy eating habits and enjoying your food, and stop any sort of dieting language. Just don't do it.
Yeah. I mean, if you want seconds, your tummy tells you you want seconds, have freaking seconds.
Yep. I loves me some seconds.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for coming, Kristen. I really appreciate it. So I'll let you do your plug.
Oh, there we go. So I am all over the social media as well. You can follow me on Instagram at Kristen Yarker. I'm on Facebook at Kristen Yarker Nutrition. And just to make it completely confusing, I'm on YouTube at ViteK Nutrition.
Nice. And of course, you know me. I'm at Jess Nourishes on Facebook and Instagram, or jessnourishes.com. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye.
Bye.